Clover. This is Luke with Clover Loop, and we're about to find out, is Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway worth the wait? Let's talk about what Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is. I mean, most people know that it's like a ride at a Disney park, but specifically, it's a trackless dark ride, right?
It is, and it's at 2 locations at Disney parks. In Walt Disney World in Florida, it is at Hollywood Studios, and then it is also at Disneyland over in Toontown.
Hard to believe, it is the very first ever Disney attraction starring Mickey Mouse, like Mickey and his pals. They've never done that before. It's kind of wild to say that, especially considering that Mickey Mouse is Disney's icon.
Yeah, that they waited this long seems hard to believe. No. So this ride in particular is based on the Mickey shorts, created by Paul Ruddish.
The first version opened at Walt Disney World in 2020, and then the Disneyland version opened in 2023.
There are some differences in terms of how you'll experience them in the parks, like where they are, and the queue essentially is quite a bit different.
So in the Hollywood Studios version, as you walk down Hollywood Boulevard, you just kind of keep going straight toward the ride, and the impressive facade of Grauman's Chinese Theater towering above you. I really like the lighted marquee. It's like an old-timey movie premiere sign. I think that's pretty cool. Once you enter the Chinese Theater, that's where most of the line is. You kind of wind through the interior of the theater, and on the walls there's a bunch of different posters, in addition to posters for Perfect Picnic. In the story of this ride, that's what we are going to see, is this new Mickey short. So at the Disneyland version, it's inside the El Capitan Theater, like the El Capitan Theater, which is owned by Disney. There's all kinds of parody posters inside of the Disneyland version, parodies of Newsies, The Absent-Minded Professor, The Parent Trap, The Mighty Ducks, and there's a bunch more.
Yeah, and then there's also like an exclusive exhibit by the Toontown Hysterical Society called Mickey Through the Ears. It features a whole bunch of like props and costumes for cartoons, like past Mickey.
in movie and TV and media through the years.
So some of the examples of what they have, they've got Mickey's Sorcerer's Apprentice hat and robe with a Yen Sid's spellbook.
Oh, that's Disney backwards.
Oh, I didn't know that until just now. Really?
Yeah.
I was like, what a stupid name. They've got outfits from Mickey Mouse Disco, Mousercise record albums.
I didn't own Mousercise, but I definitely Mousercised.
They've also got Steamboat Willie's steering wheel, Mickey's Lucky Horseshoe, and the How to Fly book from Plane Crazy.
From here on out, the rides are mostly the same. There's some subtle differences here and there.
One of the things I like about this ride is it's story-driven. I think the best Disney rides are. I suppose what makes me feel more involved in the story is the multi-stage rides, like where you don't just get on your conveyance and start going through, but you go through several stages of the ride, and that happens with this one. So the idea is that you're there to see a perfect picnic, so you get ushered into the theater and the movie comes up. And so the plot is that Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto, they're packing up Mickey's car for a picnic at Runaway Park. Minnie packs Pluto and the picnic basket in the trunk. So on the way, you see Goofy driving the Runaway Railroad. The car hits a bump, pie flies out, clogs the train's smokestack, train goes into the barn, big explosion. And so at this point, the explosion kind of comes into the theater, and there is a huge, like, hole in the movie screen.
Yeah, it's a really cool practical effect.
It is. I don't actually really know how they do it.
It's like a window shade. So during the explosion part, it scrolls up.
Incredibly effective.
It is a really effective practical effect. It's cool. Goofy lands on a board. He's like hanging there and ushers you through the hole.
Literally breaking the fourth wall. And one of the things that's impressive about this ride is like how many scenes it takes you through. And like as soon as you get on, it is immersive and very overwhelming. Walk us through the ride, because it gives you a little taste of just how complicated it is.
So from the loading area, Goofy takes you to the left and you enter the park area, and on your way there, Mickey and Minnie pull up alongside driving their car on their way to the park. And during the exchange with Goofy, Mickey and Minnie's car accidentally throws the switch lever on the track, and so Goofy goes one direction and we go the other direction.
You're in these trackless ride vehicles and you feel like you're on a train, but the ride then starts to take advantage of the like trackless nature, and like the different cars can move independently of each other.
And the first scene you go into is the desert stampede scene.
Yeah, and it's suddenly on all sides of you, and like you realize like Mickey and Minnie are a staple throughout the ride. They like come into every scene with you. So there's always this element of like anywhere you look, you're getting like a different part of the story.
As you exit this room, you move into, is it the...
Yeah, it's the amusement park scene, and like, I don't know how they're switching conveyances so quickly, but they come through on balloons in this one.
And then there's a roller coaster in the background. I think it's supposed to be like the Cyclone, the Coney Island Cyclone. And so there's like a twister on the side of that. That comes to life, and Mickey and Minnie blow off to the side.
At this point, the story isn't fully logical. You just keep getting swept along from scene to scene, and so many scenes. The twister comes through and it blows you into a twister room where you're essentially getting swirled up in a tornado.
This is the only room in the ride that's completely practical. There's a practical lightning bolt on the wall, and then the twister itself is a big twirling cone, and then there's high-speed fans.
You go blasting through that room, you land on a tropical island, because every cartoon needs to have a tropical island in it. A volcano erupts, and then all the cars break apart and you go into your own little
cocoon
screen booth. Yeah. When you're riding it, it's so disorienting. It's hard to actually tell what is happening to your car, but suddenly you're surrounded by screen.
Yeah, and this is the one scene in the ride where motion is simulated.
You're just sitting there.
Yeah, you're still in this little bay. As a person who is prone to motion sickness, I don't like this part. It does make me a little queasy. It doesn't last long enough to like really wreck the ride for me.
And then they essentially like back you out of this experience, and you move into like a city scene.
Yeah, this is where we see Pete like jackhammering, and the practical plus projection effects in this scene are great.
And so you move through the city, then you pull into Daisy's dance studio.
Yeah, you like go off to the side,
Yeah.
because in the city she's got the studio, and you're like, yeah, let's go for a dance lesson.
Yeah, and suddenly everyone pulls in and your cars kind of like are broken apart, and then you do the waltz and you do the conga, and you can see yourself in the mirrors, and Daisy's up there like telling you what's what.
This is really, it feels like a demo.
Right.
You know, it feels like if we were trying to sell somebody on what these cars can do.
So yeah, you're in the Daisy's dance studio, and then you move out of the room into an alley and into a factory, and that's kind of a crazy scene.
If Daisy's studio was the demo for trackless cars, this room is the demo for 2.5D technology.
Yeah.
It's a really impressive effect.
You get stuck on a conveyor belt and you're moving like in your car like toward the crusher, and you're gonna get smashed, and then you don't.
Yeah, so Mickey and Minnie, who are accomplished switch throwers at this point, they throw some magical switch for the factory that converts it into the park.
Well, I mean, they're the ones who boned this whole thing to start, so they really did need to redeem themselves by throwing another switch and getting you back on track.
And so they finally get to have their perfect picnic.
It's a really effective transition, because you go from the most chaotic scene to like peacefulness, like that.
This is where we reconnect with Goofy, and we reconnect with him to go through the park scene. And this is largely practical. Like there's some projections, but like not a ton.
Goofy makes sure he ends it with like an explosion. Yet another lever is pulled by Goofy. He wonders what it does. Everything explodes.
Right.
And then that is when your seat vibrates, and then you see the end.
In the exit unload area, as you walk out, you're walking through what seems like the same screen that you walked through at the beginning. It's a different area, and it says the end. It's the end card, and it's over. You're walking back into the real world. Let's talk history.
Yeah, okay. It took us until 2020 to get a Mickey Mouse ride. Had anyone ever even thought that maybe they should make a Mickey Mouse ride?
I'm glad you asked. Imagineer Ward Kimball pitched the idea for a Mickey and Minnie coaster all the way back in 1976.
That is so long ago.
It's not that long ago.
Clover was born in 1976, so it was super long ago.
I got to learn what a Wild Mouse style roller coaster is, though, because Ward Kimball's idea was this Mickey Minnie coaster would be Wild Mouse style, which is a lot like Goofy's Barnstormer over in Disney's California Adventure.
I believe that's Goofy's Flight School.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Barnstormer over at Magic Kingdom.
Yes, my bad. It's a flat track coaster that does hairpin turns. So they're cheap.
Yeah.
And they take up a really small footprint. And so I think for a time, they got really popular at a bunch of different theme parks because you could like bolster your coaster count.
And they're fun, but let's be honest, they're kind of lazy.
Well, I think as you age, they get less fun because they're designed to exert high G's like on the hairpin turns. Yeah. And that just stops being as fun when you're an adult. But that never happened. Like it was over the years, it was pitched again and again. And there was a version that was called Mickey's Movie Land, and then later something called Mickey's Studio Tour. But none of those ever happened until 2017 at D23.
So announced in 2017, construction began same year in August of 2017. They had planned a 2019 opening. Those never actually happened on time. The opening was delayed until March 4th, 2020. So the ride opened and then the whole operation shut down for the pandemic. Disneyland's version had already been announced. In April of 2019, they announced that they were going to build one in Disneyland. It was scheduled for a 2022 opening. That was also delayed. It ended up opening January 27th of 2023, about a year ago.
The big controversy of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is always the big controversy when Disney replaces a loved old ride. And that is that it replaced the great movie ride. And we were talking earlier about how the Grauman's Chinese theater replica is like the centerpiece of the park. And the park, as conceived and as designed, is supposed to be you're like living the movies. The park itself almost certainly came about as a response to what Universal Studios was doing. Over the years, it's kind of become this dumping ground for attractions and meet and greets and shows that just don't seem to belong anywhere else. And so you've really lost the movie theming throughout a lot of the park. I would say that the loss of the Great Movie Ride was a big part of the loss of that identity. There's still some leftover stuff on Hollywood Boulevard as you walk in. It's still that same golden age of Hollywood architecture style. And you've got the 60s sci-fi dine-in, and that's pretty fun.
They're stringing the theming together where they can, but attractions-wise, yeah, it was a big blow to that old Hollywood theming. I'm not saying the Great Movie Ride couldn't have used a refresh. It was beloved.
Yeah.
And it was a centerpiece. It's almost like going in and gutting Sleeping Beauty's castle and putting someone else in there. Yeah. And just being like, you know what's more popular right now? Frozen. Let's make this Elsa's castle. And it's like, no. This one felt a little hasty.
Also, like, why did the attraction have to be replaced?
Right.
Because, like, looking at other parks like Disneyland in California, for example, they're running out of space. But even within the park itself at Disney's Hollywood Studios, there's plenty of room. Like, Hollywood Studios has historically had a problem, like, filling up all the space.
They had the room. They could have made another attraction, not replaced an attraction.
Yeah. It's like, why is it even called Disney's Hollywood Studios? When it opened, it was an actual working studio.
Right.
Now it's this kind of weird shadow of its past that doesn't really have its own theming at all. And so I don't know what's going to happen to this park. It's definitely like between Animal Kingdom and Disney's Hollywood Studios, like those are definitely like the other parks. And I hope it gets better. for Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, lots of great individual pieces, no common thread.
Yeah, not really. Well, let's talk about the ride type itself, this trackless vehicle ride, and what they've done with tech on the ride, because I think it's pretty cool.
How do the trackless ride vehicles work?
It's really interesting tech. They orient themselves with little pucks that are embedded in the floor. The pucks have RFID signals that the ride vehicles themselves read. In addition, each vehicle is equipped with 5G wireless, which it also uses to orient itself. And then all of the trackless cars are controlled by what they call the RCS, which is the ride control system. Tower of Terror is like an older trackless technology where it's wire guided. These more modern vehicles are like completely independent. It also allows for a little more thrilling movement than you would get on a track ride. It's appropriate for everybody in the whole family. There's no height requirement. The vehicles themselves are powered by batteries, of course. They're quick chargers that are underneath the cars as they pull into the area where guests unload. And there are also quick chargers in the area where guests load, because that's where the cars are stationary. You can see the charging pads too.
Yeah. It was conceived as being 2.5D, which you're like, Disney, please stop making up Ds.
It's supposed to be like an immersive 3D style of a ride without having to wear 3D glasses. So really, it's using projection to enhance real world physical objects and give them additional color, motion, or depth.
And it works really well. And they've got these gigantic 4K projectors.
If you look up on the ride, in each room, there's this big hole in the ceiling where all the projectors are. And they do a pretty good job of concealing them, but you know, they're there and they're big.
The one element that is interesting are those rear projected faces on some of the animatronics, which essentially means rather than Abe Lincoln standing up and like seeing his mouth like poorly move, you're seeing like just a projected image of Mickey and Minnie's faces on 3D bodies of them. And granted, I mean, it allows them to like move their mouths faster and all of that, but they shouldn't.
Well, there's an alternative to doing this that we've all seen already that's better, and that's the animated character costume masks. Give me the audio, match it closely with the practical effect, and I'm much happier because like I think blending a projection with a practical audio animatronic is jarring because it's like these two things that don't match. My brain won't accept what the fantasy
it's noticeable,
is trying to be created.
And the faces are glowing in a way that the rest of the body isn't, so it's distracting.
It's like a lamp.
Yeah.
The hope was probably that they have fewer moving parts, so they break down less, that guests might connect with them more because they look more like what they see in the cartoon, which I hate that reason because it's insulting to the guests. It's insulting to everyone, like we won't be able to tell the difference. Come on.
So there is this like crazy blend of practical and projected in pretty much every room.
Yeah.
And I would say in most cases, they really nail it. Every scene does have a different energy to it. And like it kind of culminates in the factory scene we were talking about, where it's just like everything's moving and you're gonna get squashed. And like, that's like the projection at its peak. It's like 80% projection, like 20% practical. That ends and you actually move into a scene that's like 90% practical and only like light projection, and you don't realize why it suddenly feels so different, but that's why it feels so different, is this like chaotic frenzy of animation ends, and suddenly you're kind of still again.
Despite the fact that it relies so heavily on projection mapping, I wouldn't call it a cheat. Projection and projection mapping frequently is used as a cheat, like, oh, we can get this effect really quickly and easily just by building a really simple, practical surface and then projecting something onto it. The example that I can think of where this absolutely does not work at all is if you've ridden Navi River Journey at Animal Kingdom, there's a waterfall in this ride that's a projection mapped effect. There's no reason. It's a water ride. There's waterfalls everywhere on this ride. Why is this one waterfall a projection mapped effect? I don't know, but it shouldn't be. And so when you're using this technology in dumb ways, it like makes no sense. And I think it actually will detract from the experience of an attraction.
You could not do this ride all practical. Like, you're literally being driven into a cartoon, and that needs to be delivered, and it could not be accomplished without the projection. But they didn't overdo it. They didn't just drive you into a screen and park you there.
I love that Disney decided to take their most classic attraction, which is the Disney Dark Ride. I mean, this is the Fantasyland rides, Mr. Toad, Pinocchio, Snow White, and use the latest tech to recreate this classic Disney ride experience. So it really bothers me when screens are used as a shortcut because they're not novel. Like, everybody has screens at home.
We are no longer impressed by the size of the screen that you can show us. You see those like YouTube videos, parents like holding up their baby in a box while they like watch a roller coaster video and they like shake. That's how immersive our screens are. We can do those rides at home. You got to do something different, and this ride does do something different. It's a big popular ride. How many people can it move through?
Ride capacity on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is high. The folks over at Disney Food Blog did the math and found out that there are 8 trains running at any given time. There are 32 seats in each train, and the ride, including loading and unloading, comes in at about 6 minutes. So that's 10 loops per hour for each vehicle, which works out to a ride capacity of 2,560 people per hour, which is really high. It's actually the highest ride capacity at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
I think about Frozen Ever After, sad little Frozen Ever After over at Epcot, like so popular. A person and a half can ride it every hour.
Really, really low ride capacity by comparison. The second highest ride capacity is Star Tours, which is 1,900 people per hour. And third place is a tie for Smuggler's Run and Rock and Roller Coaster. Both can move 1,800 guests through per hour. So again, like considerably lower than what Mickey and Minnie is doing. Can you guess what the #1 ride capacity attraction is in all of Walt Disney World?
I'll give you a hint. It's like literally in the name. It is the People Mover.
Yeah.
The People Mover was designed to do one thing.
Move people.
Move people, and it does.
A rate of 4,600 people per hour, which is really a lot. So to compare the People Mover with some other rides, Haunted Mansion and Pirates both move about 3,200 guests per hour. In contrast, over at Hollywood Studios, the other most popular ride, which is Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, that's 1,700 people per hour. It's a relatively low capacity ride.
And that is why you will be paying for that individual Lightning Lane pass to get on that ride, because it can only move so many people through.
It's true.
Yeah.
You want to talk about some like behind the scenes stuff?
Yeah.
Let's talk Easter eggs and secrets and trivia. On the Disney Wish, which is Disney's newest cruise ship, there's a partner attraction that's called Aqua Mouse. It's a water roller coaster that's part of like the pool complex. And there is a pre-show element that is part of the Mickey shorts. It exists in the same universe, in the same ride universe.
Anytime Disney does away with a classic attraction, it is nice when they do little nods to it.
So there's an attraction poster for the Great Moving Ride, which is obviously a tribute to the Great Movie Ride. Also in the Tornado Room, I think this is supposed to be a tribute to the Wizard of Oz. I think there's a mailbox in the Cyclone that says there's no place like home. There's a sign for a restaurant called Maison des Souris, which means House of Mouse in French.
The parking garage is called Retlaw Parking, and Retlaw is Walter, spelled backwards.
You can also see the Brave Little Tailor shop, which is a nod to the Mickey short, Brave Little Tailor.
And then tell me about the sound design, because this is kind of cool.
The idea is that we're being taken into the world of Mickey and Minnie short cartoons. And so what better way to help complete that effect than to use the actual sound effects that were used in some of the oldest Mickey shorts. One of the original Imagineers named Jimmy McDonald built these contraptions to make sound effects for early Disney shorts. And so on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, the Imagineers incorporated a lot of these. So the train whistle that you hear is the same that created the steamboat whistle for Steamboat Willie.
I would love to tell you how many hidden Mickeys are in this ride, but I don't think anyone actually knows.
Including Sarah Kibler, Imagineer who worked on this attraction, in an interview with SFGate said, quote, "A hysterical number. I can't answer that question, but there are little kernels of Mickey everywhere throughout this attraction." So if you ride or if you have ridden Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, did you see a hidden Mickey? And if so, will you leave me a comment and let me know? One of my favorites is when you walk into the pre-show theater to watch Perfect Picnic. If you look up, there's a big light fixture on the ceiling, and the wrought iron work on those fixtures has little hidden Mickeys in it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love hidden Mickeys. I can look for those all day. How often does it break down?
A lot. So the two most popular rides at Disney's Hollywood Studios are Rise of the Resistance, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
How many times do you think it breaks down in a year?
300.
331 in 2022.
Yeah. There was one ride that went down more, which was Rise of the Resistance, which went down how many times?
So much more. 580 times in 2022.
Yeah, so when we were talking about ride capacity, that's how many guests a ride can move through. When a ride breaks down, nobody can ride it, and so, the capacity falls. And these rides break down a lot. So that means that there's going to be more waiting on these rides than with other ones.
We started off with a question. We're going to come back to it. Is it worth the wait?
Yes.